Today is the 20th of February, it's Thursday, and I'm here in the home of Nona Archibald. And Nona has been living in Warfield. I'm here in her home in Warfield. She's been living here for a long time, and she will give us her story about some of her travels and adventures in Rossland and during the skiing times. And so here she is today. And Nona, thank you very much for doing this interview for the Rossland Memories. We're very appreciative, and we hope that we'll be able to put this onto the web and keep it in the archives at the Museum of Rossland. So if you could tell us your story about where you grew up and how you came over here.
Okay. Well, my father came to this country in 1904. My mother came in 1907. So they met over here, and they married and raised their family in Saskatchewan. They were farmers. Now, mind you, my father had never seen a farm, really, when he came over, but they learned in the end. And so I was born in 1922 in Strasbourg, Saskatchewan, and I was a few years behind my siblings. They were 11, 7, and 5 when I was born.
And what were their names?
Tom, Barbara, and Adele. And so I didn't have anybody really to play with. They were all at school. However, I managed, and of course, everybody should know that it was 1922. Well, those years were okay in the 20s, but then when the 30s hit, there was the Depression, plus no rain, followed by the dust storms. So it wasn't, didn't grow a good crop for about 10 years. So the other, Tom rather, managed to get into the Mounted Police in the end, and he made that his career. And my sister Barbara went in for teaching, and Dale went in for nurse. And they all really worked for the board and room while they got their education, and so did I. Then we all stayed home. The girls usually stayed home a year to help Mother and Dad on the farm till they went away. And I did the same thing. And so I took my business course half in Regina and half in Calgary because Mother and Dad got off the farm. That's what I can say about it. They had an auction sale and left.
And when was that? No?
1942.
Oh.
Yeah, and just when crops were starting to get better, but they were already 60. So my dad was anyway, and he had enough of it really. So we all went to Calgary because Tom was there and married, and I'm sure he welcomed us with open arms. But anyway, we felt there, and I went to finish my business course there, and Mother and Dad went out to Galician, and Dad got a job as a clerk on the Indian Reserve. But so then I finished my business course in Calgary and worked there for 2 or 3 years, but not making very much money. I was I was assistant secretary to the principal of the normal school. So one night at our boarding house, I read out an ad that said there was a CMNS, which was Consolidated Mining and Smelting Company. They were looking for secretaries, and they advertised all across Canada. And as I say, we came, and my girlfriend and I, we got hired and went out there. And Caminco, or CMNS, they found lodgings for all of us somewhere, and they paid quite a bit of that lodging. I think we only paid $10 a month. So we got settled in the Douglas Hotel, which was just a housing hotel.
And that was in Trail? The
Yes, that
Douglas
was in
Hotel?
Trail.
Right.
It was, let's see, it was Kitty, it was across the street. I don't know if it was Eldorado or what street, but anyway, from the grocery store, the big grocery store that's there now.
Okay.
So it was sort of on the alley and on the corner. So we had to eat out, and there weren't many places to eat out. There was the Pop-In and a couple of Chinese restaurants, which were quite satisfactory, but wasn't. So anyway, and we had those stairs to climb, morning and noon. But, well, that was good for us. So we were really quite happy, and finally the company got a house up in Tannock, 20 Ritchie, and they let all of us who were scattered around in downtown Trail move in there.
To Tadnack?
Yes, into this house.
Nice.
Yes, it was lovely. And Kay and I had the living room, great big room. I don't know what we did for curtains. I hope we did something. But anyway, we all had a good time, and all the young engineers, they had nowhere to stay either, and the company rented 22 Ritchie, which was next door. So quite a few girls from 20 Ritchie married boys from 22 Ritchie.
Oh.
You know? And then in the end they moved them into the staff house. So then we found that quite a few of these fellows, old and young, mostly a lot of them are older, but they decided to have a joint ski club. Well, there was Rossland Ski Club and there was Trail Ski Club, and there were definitely two ski clubs. And they didn't know whether they'd ever get them melding or not, but in the end they did. And so they decided to build a lift. And they sold debentures to raise the money to build a lift. They thought that, I guess they got some, because in the end, 10 years later, we got the money back. So they had to build those, the line up Red Mountain, and Paul Jones did a lot of that, but not physically himself, but he designed it and planned it and everything, quite a lot. And then there was Jack Mitchell, and I've got it written down here somewhere, and Richie Dean, and Bob Green, and Sam Baird. They all worked, and Chuck Sankey. They were all sort of some of those were on the executive, and a lot of them worked. We went up and had a clearing in the fall. Everybody took their picnic lunch, and women and everybody went up and cleared bush.
And that was the Trail Club and the Rossland Club together?
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah. So, but then... And so then they got the lodge, and I'm not sure what line that came from, but it was I can't remember what it was now. A compressor building it was, and they didn't need it, and it was huge, and they took it apart wherever it was and sent it down, and they rebuilt it down here. Mm-hmm. And it's still there. You know, that is the lodge they used. They may have added on a little bit or put on a deck or put on new siding, whatever, and fix it up, but that is the lodge.
Right.
So then, but in the meantime, or before, really, I guess, a lot of people that wanted to ski went up to Squaw Basin, and they had to go up on skis. And we used to take the bus from Rossland Trail to Rossland ourselves. And then we carried our skis to the top of Plainer Hill, and we skied from there.
And this was in what, 1947?
7 probably.
47.
Yeah. And that's when I came in 1946, you see. But lots of this had been going on long before I got here.
Right.
And that's when I decided I needed skins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was terrible with blackbacks. Betty and I really were exhausted when we got up there. It took about 2 hours for us, at least, to do it.
Wow.
So I wrote to the furrier in Nelson and got the sealskin. And Buddy DeVito managed to get 3 sets of skins out of that sealskin we got. So,
Nice.
Which was very nice. And Buddy was the shoe maker, you might say, in this town. He had DeVito's shoe shop, he and his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still alive.
DeVito.
At this time, yeah, Buddy DeVito is. And he's written a book, which I read, and it's very good.
So tell us about some of the cabins that you saw.
There was, Yodel Inn was the top cabin, and the biggest one. And, well, I don't know whether it was bigger than Rossland Cabin, but Rossland Cabin was the first one when you went up. If you went up on skis, you'd come to that cabin. And then if you went through the trees to the right, you'd come to our little cabin. And then if you kept on going, there was the judge's cabin, and there was Ron Fulton and George Brandon. They had a cabin. And then I think he came to Yodel Inn in the end, you know. And it had quite a few men involved with it. And Rossland Cabin, no, there was Clister Club, I forgot that one. There's the Rossland Cabin, Clister Club, Ron Fulton's cabin, and then Yodel Inn.
Yodel Inn. Mm.
So, and the judges. He had a little cabin too. So, well, Yodel Inn was quite a bit more of a climb. But on the New Year's Eve, that's where everybody went. A lot of people anyway. And most, like Sammy Martin would always go up in the daytime and he would cook the turkey. Mm-hmm. And because we couldn't go till after work. So we'd get up there about 11 o'clock at night. And sometimes it was quite a climb. We had the fresh snow and they'd have to take turns breaking the trail.
So you took the lift and
no,
then
there
walked
wasn't no
from
lift.
there. Oh, there wasn't a lift yet?
This was prior to the lift.
And how did you see at night? Did you have headlamps?
We had, our boys had carbide lamps.
Oh.
But other people had another kind of light, more modern. But,
interesting.
yeah, we got a picture.
And nobody got hurt climbing up at night?
No. You can see very well, pretty quite well at night, you know, because you're used to it. Sometimes it'd be moon. I never liked to be last on the trail. Because I was scared something would get me from behind, you know. A wolf or a cougar or something. But anyway, it was fun and it was very tiring. But we'd get there and then they had a full dinner. About midnight we'd have the dinner. And then in the morning it was usually beautiful sunshine, cold and beautiful, sunny. And of course we'd look down on this cloud over top of trail and be glad we were there. And that's when we had the games of the races and things.
Neat. So the Yodel Inn had bedding for you?
We took our own sleeping bags.
You took them up with you?
Yes, but they didn't have enough room for everybody, and the boys would ski down, probably inebriated, through the trees, you see, to the other cabins.
Oh, okay.
To sleep there, and the girls stayed up there.
Oh, neat.
Anyway, and Jack Mitchell. And anyway, we had a lot of fun. One night, Betty, my friend, she and I and Chess's wife, and I just can't think of her name right now, but anyway, we all were sleeping upstairs. So Betty walked in her sleep, and there was no railing on the upstairs. So she got up and was wandering around. Anyway, I guided her back to bed.
Oh my goodness. And Betty was your bridesmaid?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I've kind of jumped a little bit.
Yes.
Have you met somebody yet?
Yes. Yes, well, you see, I was going to tell you that I hadn't told you, I don't think, about they used to go up, and anyway, they were short a girl. You know, Betty always went, and she wanted another girl, so there was somebody going, but then she couldn't go, and so I went instead. And Pat and Bob were the two boys that were going, so I met Pat. And after a few months, that sort of became, we always went, and we always went to anything. He didn't dance, so we had to teach him to dance. So there were lovely dances then.
Down in Trail?
Mm-hmm. There was a Cinderella Club, and they were formal, and the Glim Club, they were formal. So there was really 8 long-dress dances in all winter. It was very nice, yes. And before that, when we first came, they weren't formal, but there were dances everywhere. You know, up at Gulch, you had the dances, and maybe every Saturday night, and the above Woolworths, which is Shoppers now, you know, up there above there, there were dances, and we could go to a dance anytime we liked. It was lovely.
So you had to teach Pat, who was going to be your husband.
Yes. In the end.
You had to teach him how to dance.
Waltz, anyway. Anyway, so that worked out very well. And there was like a lot of fellows, like Saul Rothman and Newt Robinson. They had Clister Club, and some others. I've forgotten who they were now, but they'd come up and they'd visit back and forth. We did, you know. We're bored, let's go over to Clister Club, and that sort of thing.
And so when you went to the clubs, apart from staying overnight, did you always stay overnight at the cabins, or did you just go for the day?
I only remember going for the day once, and that was when I was married, and I knew everybody was up there, you know, other people, and so I said goodbye to Pat. You go in charge of the children. You do this, that, and the other thing, and one of them had taken. Somehow or other I got up to the lift, and the lift didn't go up there anyway. Then I went myself up.
Wow.
And I got there just in time. They were all going out on a hike, but Betty stayed back. She said, I don't care if I go anyway, and she stayed back because I was too tired to go any further.
For sure.
So,
right.
And that's the only time I went up, just for the day, and then we all came down later.
And so you mentioned your children. Tell me a little bit about your children.
Well, at that point, I think I just had Paul and Chris. And I said, now, you don't have to do anything but the washing. So when I came home, he looked at me a bit disheveled and said, I haven't done the washing.
Oh.
Anyway, he'd managed for the day, but it was kind of funny. And Paul for 2 years he went to Central School, and then we moved up here.
Oh, nice.
So
and you had Paul and Chris?
And Susan.
Yeah. So you had 3.
Yes.
So did you ever take them up to Red Mountain?
Oh, yes. They learned to ski. Paul started at 14. Well, then the rest of them wanted to do it too. They were younger, and we had to take Paul up, so we might as well take the other 2. And really, because that was Saturday, Pat usually was working that day, and so he didn't often come. Once or twice he came. Right. So we'd go.
So who taught your kids to ski? Was it Pat, or was it you, or
no,
somebody else?
It was. I should have brought his name. It was an older man who taught all the kids to ski. He had a little class of his own, and I can't remember if we paid any money or what, but they had a 10 o'clock class and an 11 o'clock class, and ours were put in the 11 o'clock class. And
did they stay with their skiing? Did they go anywhere with
them? They loved skiing. Like they didn't go other places, but Paul still skis.
Oh, wow.
He goes to Kamloops. Well, he doesn't go much, but they go, have friends over there, and they go for to a weekend every now and then.
And so you and your children would ski together sometimes?
Oh, we skied on the same hill.
Oh, okay.
And they would go when the lift got up granite. The boys would leave here, and Darrell Gansert would come up, and the three of them would go over here, and they only had the boots to carry. We had a locker, so they get a ride pretty fast, and away they go. And they would go really early, so they wanted to be the first down the hill because the snow was so nice then. So they'd start on red, and then as soon as granite opened, they'd go over there, get the first snow on that one. They had a good time.
So they would ski together. The three of them would ski together.
Yeah, usually. Yeah, they had other kids too that they'd all be together. There was usually four of them, but always three.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Pat was working. What did Pat do?
Well, he went to work for the camera shop in Trail, and even though he could have stayed with West Kootenai, say at twice the salary, but he was just dying to get into photography, and so he went over there and worked for Mr. Schultz. So Mr. Schultz decided to go back to Calgary.
Okay.
He had a store there too, so they went back to Calgary, and he left Pat in charge of this one. And they made an arrangement. In the end, we had enough money to buy it. Took a while, but anyway.
And what kind of photos was he taking? And
Oh well, there was a studio, like Mr. Hughes had the building built, and it was to be a photo shop, retail, and downstairs were the dark rooms, and upstairs was a apartment. And he and his wife lived upstairs, and so when Pat bought the business, then he had all that available to him. Like I think they made it into offices before Pat ever bought it. Like Mr. Hughes died, and Mrs. Hughes moved away.
Right.
And they turned it into offices upstairs.
So Pat was taking photos of Trail as well, or
yeah, he was doing a lot of darkroom work, and so he sort of ran before Mr. Schultz left. He ran the downstairs, and yes, he did a lot of darkroom work, and he did take photos, but Mr. Schultz took a lot of the photos.
Okay.
Pat learned a lot from him.
Okay.
And then, of course, when he left, well, Pat was taking all the weddings and things. And we had quite a few weddings.
Oh, weddings. So he took weddings. And then you were just showing me some photos of the cabins, and you were skiing, and
yes,
photos of you in the cabin. Who took those photos?
Well, any photos I've got, Pat probably took them all. There's not many of him, you notice. He took the photos, and he did some of them.
So he was taking all those. And
well, he just took fun photos.
Photos.
Really, yeah. And then he did have other things, such as the. When the flood was on, he hired a plane for a day, and he flew all the way to the cusp and over to Castle and took pictures because it was all flooded and everything, and especially Castlegar. And sold them,
So he went up in the plane and
took some pictures.
Took some pictures.
And they sold them on the counter. They had them piled on the counter. And people could go through them and see which ones they wanted to print of. So. And that was 1948. So then he did that a bit with other things that happened, big things.
And was he involved in any of the taking photos of the mines?
Well, when they built the dam, they built the Juanita Dam. Yes, he had to go up there every Monday and take pictures and have them ready for them on Tuesday. So I remember that.
Wow.
You know, yeah. He took a lot of pictures for them there as it progressed.
And so, did Pat have time to ski with you when he had his shop? Or did he not ski anymore?
It was funny that after we had children and that, we didn't go skiing, us at all.
Just the kids?
Yeah, when they were old enough. But no, well, you can't leave 3 kids home.
That's
very
right.
Well, you know,
Exactly.
They didn't want you to go away anyway. You know. So.
And did they ski with Pat? They go out with him ever?
Just before we were married, we skied together always. Right. Yeah.
But the kids, your kids didn't. You as a family
Pat just kind of
up?
quit. He didn't like the lift. Like the lift was okay, but he liked being out in the bush.
Right.
And you know, he didn't want to ski on Red Mountain much.
Oh.
It was, I don't know, he wanted to buzz off by himself. So
more of the wilderness experience rather than staying on Red.
Eating frozen sandwiches and things.
Frozen sandwiches.
Anyway, he was busy. You know, when you're a boss, you don't get time to.
That's right.
Go off places.
Right. And do you remember how much it cost to be a member of the clubs that you were in?
The first year it was $10.
Okay.
Oh, there was a big discussion about that. I can remember it because one of the fellows, Sam Baird, said they've got to charge them more than that. Oh, everybody said nobody will come. Nobody will pay more than that. And they said, you can always lower the price, but you can't raise the price, some of them said to me. And, well, of course, that didn't last, you know. I don't know what we paid in it. Well, I remember paying $200 for us, for the family pass for the winter.
Right.
And I didn't mind paying that then. We had enough money we could pay that.
For all, including the kids?
Yeah, a family pass was $200.
$200.
Probably, I don't know what it is now, it would be way more than that.
And is there, like you mentioned, the Trail Club and the Rossland Club, they merged together?
Yes, it was just one thing, the Red Mountain Club.
Red Mountain Club.
Yeah.
And so they were still in charge of all the lifts?
Yes, there was. Yes. I think they were still in charge when they built Granite.
Okay.
But I couldn't say for sure.
And
in the end, like, they sold it. They couldn't manage it all, so they sold it.
Oh. They sold
everything of the ski hill. And,
okay. And so when they were putting the lifts up, you mentioned something about them getting the parts from somewhere else?
Oh, yes. Yes, well, the lodge, for one thing. And the bull wheel, that came from Riendell.
From Riendell?
Riendell?
Yes.
Yeah, the bull wheel came from there. And, yes, they got a lot of help that way from CMNS. They need stuff that they needed. And I remember hearing one old man sitting there saying, I wouldn't ride that for as long as he and Johnny, you might say, you know, because he'd been working in a mine and seen it go flippity-flop. And as I said, I think, well, it did it once because someone pushed the chair when he got off too far, and he'd gone all the way round, I think. And he pushed it off, and it went off the bull wheel and everything. The cable did. So the bull wheel was left. It fell on the ground, and the big thing, and the cable, of course, bounced all the way up. And people were tossed around quite a bit, but I don't think anybody was hurt.
That's good.
Yeah.
And they managed to fix it up?
Oh yeah, they had to get. I don't know what they did, but they must have got another. Well, the bull wheel, I think, was all right. Must have been kind of hard to smash that.
Oh.
So, So that was one little incident, when it was fairly near the beginning, so scared everybody.
Oh. So it sounds like you had a good time up at Red Mountain.
Yes.
And Pat became a photographer, and you've shown me some really nice photos. Is there anything else that you can remember about early days of Red Mountain? You mentioned Betty was your bridesmaid. How did you meet Betty?
Oh, they had somebody meet us when we came in on the train, when we first came to work here.
Right.
Someone always met the new people. And Betty and Marguerite Howard met Kay Wright and myself.
Oh, nice.
So that's
who was Betty working for at that time?
CM&S.
Okay.
And I don't know what person she was working for. But
right.
I don't even know what department she was in, but she worked there.
So you came over by train?
Well, yes, we did. Mm-hmm. Oh. And got off at Castlegar and took a bus in.
Oh, okay.
And it just seemed that we were going into the middle of nowhere, you know. So then we got here, and Betty and Marguerite met us and took us to the hotel and took us to another little home. Well, not little home particularly, but at the end of the bridge, like on Trailside, on West Trailside.
Okay,
We took
yes.
us there and up the hill to a house, and I could have a room in the attic.
Oh, so you were closer to when you first came to Trail, you were closer to that old bridge.
That's where they wanted me to stay.
Oh,
but
right.
I wasn't going to stay there. And then the people were nice and everything, but I didn't want to stay up in this attic. So I said to Betty, I don't think I'll take this. Places are hard to get.
Sure.
And Betty said, oh, she was so shocked. She said, we'll have to stay here. That's where they're putting you. So, well, I said to the girl, I think for the woman, I think I'll go home and go with my friend and stay the night with my friend at the hotel. So that's what we did, but that I never left. We stayed there. I went back the next day and said I wouldn't be coming. We were going to stay there. And we were both quite happy about it. But 8 months later, in a 3/4 bed, and we weren't so happy about it.
Right, of course. So you shared one hotel room
yes.
for 8 months.
Yes, and I think we could have had another one, but we didn't know that. Like, we were too scared to go and ask Mr. Randall if we could have another room, 2 rooms there.
Oh.
So I didn't stay in the attic, but I probably drove Kay crazy. Anyway, we're still friends.
So Kaminko Consolidated Mines, they paid for the hotel, but you had to pay.
Well, we only paid $10.
$10.
Yes. I don't know what they cost in the first, early. And then we would have to pay our meal, because we went to Mr. Randall and complained because we didn't like eating at this, whatever that place was called, the Chinese store, actually Chinese place. It was the same menu every night, and we didn't like that. So he said, "Well, what are you paying for breakfast?" And we said 15 cents.
Wow.
So anyway, he laughed. So we stayed there, and he said he would arrange it so we could eat where the other girls ate. Okay, there was the company store was just where pharmacy is now, and up above were rooms for many women and professionals or whatever, So we could stay there, or we could eat with them, because they had a cook and everything. It was all set up.
See.
So they had a cook and cleaning people and all that. So we'd go over there for our meals.
So that was the Douglas Hotel?
Yes.
And then you had to walk up to the other area?
Yes, it was just across the street, sort of.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad?
No.
No stairs to climb or anything?
Oh, yeah. There were stairs.
There
No,
were
not
stairs.
those kind of stairs. No.
Okay.
Just upstairs of the building, that's all, yeah.
And so the food was better?
Oh, yeah. Good
Yes.
meals. Yeah.
Good meals?
They had a good cook, yeah.
good. So I guess then when you met Pat, then you moved into your own house when you got married?
Well, we moved into a house. It wasn't ours.
Right.
We rented a house up at the top of Pine Avenue Hill there.
Okay.
And it was a nice little home. It was well built and everything. We didn't do it any good with 3 children, but and we were there for 10 years.
Wow.
And then we managed to buy this one we're in now.
Here in Moorfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Well, it's nice, yeah.
It's a beautiful area.
The house is well built, this one. We didn't have anything to do with it, but, it was built. We bought it from somebody.
Nice.
And we liked it. We've always liked Warfield.
And so who besides Betty, who were some of your friends that you met later on up here in Warfield?
Let's see. Well, some of them have moved away. Like the Carberts lived 2 or 3 doors down, and she and I were good friends. They had coffee party every Wednesday morning, and there was May and Mary that lived over here, Mary Dukowitz and Ruth Whitehouse, and we used to have coffee Wednesday mornings.
Nice.
They were kind enough to ask me.
And what about Pat? Did he have any associates or any people working with him? Did he know anybody?
He had a lot of businessmen he knew well, and he was president of the Merchants Association for about 3 years, I think.
Oh. What did the Merchants Association do?
Oh, just saw that the merchants didn't get shipped, I suppose. I don't know what they did. They had a meeting.
Men's business.
Yeah. The merchants, they had a meeting. They had a meeting once a month and talked things over, I guess, how to run your business and things. I don't know, but...
So you both had a busy life?
Yes, he was very busy.
Right.
He worked a lot of overtime, but anyway.
And what happened to his business?
Well, eventually he sold it. Cameras just went downhill very badly a few years ago. They just changed so much.
Right.
I don't know how they make any money, but in the big cities, they keep up with everything, and I guess they do. I don't know.
When did he sell?
I think 1978.
78.
The first time it changed hands.
Right.
And one of the men that worked for him, he took it over. And then in the end, well, it was it was 1981, I guess, that they built the mall. That didn't help downtown.
Oh,
it was hard to support both the mall. Still is. The mall and downtown. And then it was 81 was the year there was kind of a depression across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so that didn't help, and so on. And cameras went kaput too. They brought in all these digital things and that.
Right. The digital world.
Yes.
Took over.
So they had trouble in the end anyway, the people that took it over. And then somebody else bought from them. In the end, it just failed, which was too bad, because it was a going concern. When we had it, we were rushed.
Right.
So it had staff of about 9, I think, and then me was 10, but I was just part-time.
And you were part-time, you were helping with the books? Or?
In the end, well, not really, but I did pay the bills. I mean,
okay.
Pat would have all the invoices, and I'd look after that part. And I worked on the counter. I loved working on the counter.
So unfortunately, hate to ask, when did Pat pass away?
January the 3rd, 1976.
76.
Or 96.
Oh, 96. Okay.
96.
So you've been on your own now since 96.
Mm-hmm. About 17 years or so. Well, it's like 14 this year. And 2 or 3 years of left in the 90s, eh? 3 years.
3 years.
Did I say?
1996.
96, yes, he died.
About 18 years now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so thank you very much, Nona. We've enjoyed it very much. You have a lot of history here, and we thank you for your time. And we will be putting this in the archives at the Rossland Museum.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll put some of it on the web with your permission. And thank you. Thank you very much for all your time.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll probably think of all